So Julie, you may want to stop the recording and start it again so you have a fresh start.
Recording now. So I want to thank everybody for attending today's session. We have Toby Oxholm chiming in from the Poconos that will be running the Pardon Project CLE, but we also have Pat Kennedy, Jack Denieri, and Tim George, which are going to also participate in the Pardon Project and give an overview and some thoughts. So with that, I will turn it over to Pat Kennedy, who is via Zoom, as well as Jack Denieri, who is live on campus here at the ECBA. Do know that we are recording this session. If you have a question or something that you want to put in the chat box, I will be monitoring that. And because this is a CLE, there are going to be 3 code words said throughout the presentation. So make sure you note those on your CLE certificate. And with that, I will turn it over to Pat Kennedy and Jack Denieri.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us this afternoon as we present the Pardon Project, not only to attorneys for CLEs, but I know that we have some civic leaders, church organizations, university officials who are also joining us for this very important program. The intent of this program is to help us help our community. Too many times my client base seem to be stuck in ruts because they can't progress in their jobs, they can't progress in their education, and this is where the Pardon Project will come into play to allow us to help them clear past record and allow them to move forward with their lives. I would be hesitant not to thank Toby, who has brought this to my attention, Judge Dimitrovich, various civic leaders, Mercyhurst, Gannon, who are all on board, not only with brick and mortar, so to speak, but also with student volunteers to help us with this. It's not going to happen overnight, but we can make Erie County a better place as we give all of our citizens that equal footing. And so one of the biggest people I'd like to thank is Jack Denieri, because he agreed to be part of this, and really without his support and knowledge, the Pardon Project probably would not have gone as far as it has so far this year. So Jack, after you pay me the $5 for saying that, it's all yours.
Thank you, Pat. And it came to my attention, the Pardon Project, through Pat Kennedy, our Erie County's public defender. And I think everyone realizes that criminal justice and the criminal justice system as we know it is no longer, it's not the same anymore. And the Erie County District Attorney's Office is no different in recognizing that, how we deal with cases that we handle, but certainly with respect to the Pardon Project, it's how we deal with offenders after they have served their time and after they have finished their sentences. And our office has been a part of recognizing what it's like to be out of prison and now trying to establish a crime-free life as part of Unified Erie's 3-pronged gun violence reduction system project. Re-entry became very important to a number of individuals in this community, agencies as well as attorneys and others. And so the notion of re-entry, that is finding individuals work, finding them housing, getting them driver's license and social security. We recognize that those things are extremely vital to combating recidivism. If an individual has a job and they have the ability to get to work, and those things vote in their favor for not reoffending. So it was not a difficult pitch on Toby's part or Pat's part to have my office join in what I think is another step in recognizing how the community benefits when individuals who are out of jail or have finished their probation sentence or parole now are looking to establish a crime-free life. And I don't believe that the district attorney's office should stand in the way of that. Some might think it's counterintuitive that the DA who's supposed to be prosecuting people and putting them in jail, well, why are you affiliating or associating yourself with this pardon project? What about the victims of all your cases? And I recognize that, but I don't think that the two are mutually exclusive. And to the victims that we have in our cases, we secured them justice as best we could by way of a plea, a conviction, and then a subsequent sentence. But let's remember too, that a pardon applies to individuals who have finished their sentence in toto. That is that their parole is, or their probation is complete. Plus there's a number of years, which Toby will get into the substance of what criteria is needed to actually receive that pardon. But the point is that those individuals who are looking to establish a life, who are looking to rid themselves of the baggage that prevents them from getting a job, that those individuals deserve their turn as well. And so I'm very pleased that our office is part of it. Thank you.
All right, so let me begin by thanking everybody for attending this program right now. My name is Toby Oxholm. I'm the head of the Pardon Project. While it says Philadelphia, I do live in the Poconos. I wanted to add a few more thanks. Jack and Pat have been absolutely terrific. Jackie Lager from Northwestern Legal Services and Aubrey Haynes, the first deputy clerk of court, are essential players in this, as you'll hear. And Julie Kresge there in the Bar Association. I don't know what we'd do without her. So thanks for everyone. I want to begin by what we're talking about. Criminal records. I was a civil lawyer for 40 years. What do I know from criminal stuff? Whenever you're arrested, you have a criminal record. The criminal record includes the arrests and convictions. An expungement is how you erase them. Only judges can do that. Clean slate is how you hide them or sealing them. A commutation is how you shorten the sentence. A pardon is how you forgive the crime. An exoneration is proving you are innocent all along. We are not talking about proving innocence. We're not talking about sealing. We're not talking about shortening. We are talking about pardons, okay? And so who are we talking about? Here are the criteria that Erie County has set for itself in trying to help folks do this, right? Help them out. You have to be a resident of Erie County or have a conviction in Erie. Your household income has to be at or below 150% of poverty, which is about $40,000 for a family of four. So they don't got a lot of money. You have to have completed your sentence, and beyond that, as Jack was saying, by at least 3 years, because the Board of Pardons doesn't want to see you until you've had 5 years living out in the street with no more convictions. And if the crime involved sex or violence, they don't want to see you for 10 years. Okay? There's going to be a review by the DA's office at the beginning where we are, but also by the Board of Pardons before they give a hearing. And they also don't want any open cases. So we're talking about a fairly small group of people who've gone through this criteria and who are worth helping. They are your neighbors who are trying to do the best they can, but can't get that next job or the better house or the better education because they did something stupid 10, 15, 20 years ago that's still walking around with them on their always publicly accessible criminal record. So this is an ethics CLE. So we got to do some ethics here, right? We're talking pro bono publico. For the good of the public, for the public good. It's Rule 6.1 professional conduct. I'm not going to tell you about it. You've read this for time and time again. I am going to tell you, though, that the first code word is bono. Good. It's good for us all. Bono. Write it down. If you don't write it down, you don't get credit, but you'll still learn a lot. Okay. So I want you to note bono. Well, it's really note bene, but note bono. This is the easiest pro bono you will ever do. I guarantee it. And it's on tape, so you can hold me to it. You don't have to do an entry of appearance. You don't have to learn any rules of procedure. You don't have to you don't have to learn any rules of evidence. You don't do memorandums of law. You don't do depositions. You don't do arguments. You don't have to attend hearings. And you are done in 3 to 4 hours. Tell me you can find a better way of doing pro bono than this. You don't need to have any specialty area. Young lawyers and old lawyers like me can do this with just the training you're getting today. Okay. So this is bono for you guys, bono for attorneys. First, you're getting the CLE. And for those who sign up today to help, we'll give you another CLE credit for 5 hours of service, which is about representing 2 clients. Now, I know this is a surprise to the folks at the Erie County Bar Association, but because they can go through us and we are accredited to do this, 5 hours gets you 1 more. It's a 2-for-1 sale, only today, only if you sign up today. Now, oh no, for the state. This is what's going on. People are realizing across the state that we are excluding too many people from jobs we need them in. And it's damaging our competitiveness internationally. So here we had the Secretary of Labor and Industry saying, come on, let's get beyond these criminal records. And we have a study coming out of the Economy League just last year that says just signing the guy's name, the governor's name, freed up $16.5 million who went to economies across the state, and Erie was not getting its fair share. I'm telling you, maybe 5 people out of all the 1,000 that went through came from Erie. You're losing out because people are not applying for pardons. But here's some ethical stuff you need to know about. First, of course, you cannot do any legal services without being competent. Here's the nice thing. You can provide competent representation just through this course. Really, seriously, 1 hour and you're done. The scope of representation can be limited. Of course, you can always have limited entries and limited assignments. This is a limited series of volunteer efforts we're asking you to do. And as the rules say, it's just to give advice or to help complete 1 form. Seriously, that's all you have to do. And it's very ethical. Here's something you ought to realize. A lawyer who provides non-legal services can still be thought of as providing a legal service unless you have disclaimers everywhere. All right, so here's the thing. You do not need to be a lawyer to be a pardon coach. I'm training college kids. I'm teaching church ladies. I'm teaching people in the recovery services, doctors, nurses, healthcare, anybody can be a coach. So you don't need to be a lawyer. Now, if you're really worried about doing things like, oh my God, I'm a lawyer, I better tell them I'm not doing legal service, you can write a disclaimer. But I'm telling you, you're not going to have to worry about that at all. And I'll explain why. Here's how we're clearing criminal records. As I said, only a judge can do it. And the judge can only do it for non-conviction data or summary offenses. And if you're trying to talk about a misdemeanor or a felony, it can only be expunged, which means erased, after the governor has pardoned somebody. Yeah, you got to go up to the governor, even if it's a 3rd-degree misdemeanor for smoking pot when you were 18. You cannot get a job because of your drug conviction in healthcare without having the governor say, I forgive you for this. Seriously, that's the law. And the only way you can get to the governor is by going through the Pennsylvania Board of Pardons after a full hearing and open session upon due public notice, which is what our Constitution says, okay? So here is what the Board of Pardons is. And yes, under the ethical rules, this is a tribunal in terms of the representations you're making to it. So you got to make sure you are being accurate if you go on the papers. More on that later. 5 members, 2 are elected officials, Lieutenant Governor and the Attorney General. 3 are appointed by the governor with the consent of the Senate. They serve 6-year terms that are overlapping. Crime victim, corrections expert, and a doctor of medicine. It's currently a psychiatrist. I want you to pay attention to this. 5 people from very different avenues, right? Lieutenant Governor, Attorney General, and 3 people that are representing various kinds of interests. Why is that important? You're going to see. Here is the process. First, application. I put that in red because that's the only thing we're asking you to do. You can get it off the internet. We're circulating a fillable PDF, so you don't even have to do that. You fill it out and you mail it in. Yep, you mail it. This time next year, you can do it online, but right now you're mailing it. You send it in. Okay. After about, I don't know, a year and a half, really, seriously, nothing's going to happen for a year and a half. The applicant will get a letter saying, we want to interview you, and it'll come from the Department of Probation and Parole. And they do the interviews, the investigations on behalf of the Board of Pardons. They do talk to the applicant for sure. If there's a victim, and so many of these don't involve victims, human victims, they'll interview the victim. They always go to the DA. They always go to the judge. They'll go to employers, landlords, wives, husbands, ex-spouses. It's the government. They can do anything they want. And they then put together a report and they send it in to the Secretary of the Board of Pardons, who shares it with the 5 guys, and they do what's called a merit review. A merit review is the decision they make in a public meeting as to who gets the public hearing. Okay, you only need 2 votes to get to a public hearing. 2 out of 5. Okay, and then when you get the public hearing, you need 3 votes to move to the next step. Now remember, we're talking about neighbors. We're talking about people in the community who finish their sentences. We're not talking about getting out of prison. We're not talking about lifers. We're not talking about any of that complicated stuff. These are people who are doing their best. You need to persuade 3 people. Well, 4, because you got to add in the governor. And so, here's what's going to happen. There's a public hearing usually held in the Supreme Courtroom in Harrisburg. You used to have to drive there. How's that for wanting to represent somebody? Now they're being done by Zoom. The next ones are coming up September 22 to 24. If there is anything you do, turn on 9 o'clock, September 22nd. That's the Zoom address. And in 15 minutes, you're going to learn all you need to know about how these hearings go. Lieutenant Governor comes out, gavels them down, explains what's going on, calls the first person. Either they ask questions or they don't. And then the next, and the next, and the next. I'm telling you, this is the best reality TV you will ever see. It's on for half an hour. Put it in your calendars now. September 22nd, from 9 o'clock to 9:30, they hear pardons. They're not hearing commutations at that hour. Okay, so this is a CLE, so you got to learn the law. And this is the law of pardons. Seriously, this is the law of pardons. There's none. Well, there is, but what the law of pardons basically says is they can do whatever they darn well please. This is a constitutional agency. The courts can't tell them what to do. The legislature can't tell them what to do. The board doesn't have to explain anything. They never write a report. They vote yes or no and don't ever say why. And that's why it's going to be impossible for any lawyer to mess up on this, because how are you going to know? You're helping somebody fill out an application and you're taking the client's words and the client signs it themselves. And then the client's interviewed alone by probation and parole. And then the client is interviewed at the hearing, and lawyers aren't allowed to talk. So where exactly did you fit into this picture? It's going to be really hard to ever say that a lawyer messed up on this. And you're going to see why, in fact, you can't anyway. So here's the upside. The process is entirely, you can be done in 3 to 4 hours, and you're done when it's in the mail. The hearings are online. The Board of Pardons is recommending right now 87% of the people who come before them on hearings. And half of them don't even have to show up anymore. They've already gotten the 5 votes at that merit review. They don't even have to show up anymore. The governor has been approving, it's down to 97% now, but 97. And the court, after a pardon's given, has to expunge. So we're talking an 80% or better success rate. I mean, what lawyer wouldn't take that on, really? I mean, okay. And understand, this is the same process whether the client is paying or not. And with all those convictions out there, nailing all of us when we were kids or young adults and doing something that we shouldn't have been doing, there are a lot of people everywhere who need a second chance that only a pardon can provide. This is a fee-generating practice area where we're also hoping you'll help poor people. Here's the kicker. Only a little bit less than 2/3 of the people actually get hearings. And that's where you come in. Your job is to persuade at least 2 people to give the client a hearing. And the only way we can do this is in the application, okay? We're trying to persuade them in what we're saying, helping the client say in this application and the materials we're submitting with it, that this person really does deserve a second chance. And here are the winners. I mean, these are the people that the Board of Pardons have routinely been recommending for a pardon. And there's no requirement. I mean, they don't have these listed anyplace, but we've been watching them for 3 years. The client has to be 100% honest, not 50%. They have to be open. They have to, if the board thinks they're weaseling or clouding something or not accepting what's going on, they can still get a pardon, but the shots are about 20%, not 80%. The client has to accept responsibility. They have to own the crime. Now, sometimes, as all of us know, people will plead guilty just to get out of jail because they can't post bail. They are innocent, but it is a wise choice for them to get out of jail when they can for time served, taking one count and getting back so they can get to the work, keep raising money for the family, paying the mortgage. Life goes on. So you are going to be representing people who are absolutely claim they were innocent. And they probably were. And the board knows that some people pled guilty for other reasons other than they did it. You have to tell your client, and the client has to tell the board how it was that came to be at the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people. Own that. Why did the cops think that you were really doing it? And why did you think it was an okay thing to plead guilty at the time? You were doing some stuff that made people suspicious. Own it. And the longer ago it was, the less the board's going to be interested in it. I mean, honestly, if you were smoking dope at 18 and you're now 36 and you're trying to support a family of 3, who really cares what you were doing when you were 18? Right? If you haven't done anything else since then and you're leading an upright life now and you really have turned the corner, well, let's get on with that. That's pretty much the way the board's looking at it and the DAs are looking at it. They want to see that you have specific goals and good reasons for needing a pardon. If it's just, yeah, it'd be nice to have a pardon, the answer is no. But if you're a breadwinner now, or you can't get into school, or you can't get into a trade, or get a license, or get a promotion, or coach your kid's t-ball team, or volunteer in the community, or go to take a trip someplace, or carry a gun, all good reasons, Put them down. And at the time of the hearing, which you're probably not going to be around for, 2.5 years from the time you mail it in, has paid all restitution. If there was a victim, you had to pay back the money. At least 5 years since completing the sentence, 10 if it was involving serious violence or sex. And there has to be at least 5 years clean and sober if the person's crime involved drugs or alcohol. And finally, here's the interesting one. 2 out of the 5 people on that panel are looking for some kind of record of public service that the individual was giving back to the community. Now, who among us is not interested in helping people like that? Seriously, these are the ones that are winners. And the clients have to know this is what they have to do in order to win. So you're telling them these are the rules. There is nothing wrong about that. That is for the good of the community, pro bono, right there. So now we're going to get into the actual paperwork for the pardon, okay? Here we go. I'm going to change screen share and we're going to go. Let's see, where am I going here? This is what I hate most of all. All right, let's see. We're going to the Board of Pardons. All right, Jack, raise your hand since I can see you. Can you see that new screen, important alert?
Yes, we can see it.
All right. Excellent. All right, so this is the bop.pa.gov website, Board of Pardons, pa.gov. You're going to see this whenever you go there. It's going to have the important alert, avoid rejection. This means do not send in the application unless you get 6 documents from the court. And this is where Aubrey Haynes has been absolutely magnificent. All we have to do is tell her, I'm trying to help this person with a pardon. Here's the conviction they had. And she will arrange to send us by PDF all the documents that have to be attached. I mean, how cool is that? Right? We're only representing low-income people. They're waiving the copying fee, and they're going to help us do this by email. This is cool. Now, you can also get the application packet online, which I've already sped through, but here's the application packet. I've already sent this around, and I've actually provided a fillable PDF version so that you can actually write up a lot of these things on Word, copy, paste, rock and roll. Otherwise, you can download it and do the line-by-line stuff. It'll take you forever. Okay. We're going to go through this. I'm telling you, there are videos that'll show you how to do this step by step if you need it. And I'll probably show them to you at the end. They're on our website, plsephilly.org. We've already circulated the list of helpful websites. So if you fall asleep, you'll be able to find out how to do this by going online. And also, you can tell the clients to go there too, so they know what they're supposed to do. All right, so here's the application packet. It applies for every kind of clemency, and there are 2 kinds. One are commutations, which are all these things through here, which is the shortening. It's not what we're doing. Or there's a pardon. So you click the pardon over here on the left, okay? Over here on the right is an expedited review for non-violent marijuana convictions or paraphernalia. So if the client you're helping only has a bust and a conviction for marijuana-related crimes, check that. That'll get the client to the top of the list, and with any luck at all, get them a hearing within 1 year, not 2.5 years. Because Everybody knows that marijuana is, well, not as bad as we once thought it was. And there are tens of thousands of people in Pennsylvania with a marijuana record. A lot of paying clients will do that too, by the way. Just keep this in mind. Okay, have you previously filed in Pennsylvania? Check it. Applicant information. Now, look, this looks pretty normal, but there's a trick or two here. Like, you just got to know what the tricks are. I'm going to show you. The first line is name, right? First name, middle name, last name, suffix. Okay. My real name is Carl Oxholm III. My dad named me, I think, when I was in utero, but nonetheless, I don't have a middle name. So I'd fill out Carl, first name, last name. I don't have middle name, so Oxholm, and suffix. Yeah, everybody knows what one of those is. Roman numeral 3, right? I can see Jack shaking his head. That is not right. In this one, full middle name, you have to put down N.A. Every block gets filled out. Rule number 1 is be totally honest. Rule number 2 is fill in every box. Because what's going to happen is when this gets mailed in, it goes to the Board of Pardons clerk. She looks at it, and there's a blank there. And they don't know if you forgot or whether it was intentional. So they'll take it from the I'm working on this now pile to the I'll get back to it later pile. You do not want to do that to the client. NA, every blank that's open, fill it in with NA. You can't fill it in too many times. Aliases, all right, that's why I put Toby Oxholm. A lot of people misspell my name. I would put down the misspelled name. A lot of records are in the wrong name. Put in the wrong spelling. Any kind of name garbling that appears on the record, put it in there. Date of birth, social security number, address, yep, apartment number, if applicable. Right, NA, if there's no applicable. City, state, zip. All right, now we're down to email addresses, primary phone, secondary phone. You know what to put in. You know, you've got to fill that stuff in unless you have an NA. Now, here's the second trick. Name of institution, inmate number, and parole number. Okay. This is not a memory test. This is, are you today having any of those things? Every one of the clients we send you, it'll be, yes, you're right, NA, NA, NA. Don't leave those blank. Now we're doing a representation. Another trick question. Most of these folks are going to be representing themselves. You're not going to carry on. Bless you if you do. If you take them on as a client, you are a hero. But usually we're going to finish when we're done with the form, send them on their way and be done. In that case, they're checking the one box that says self. And the instructions say, proceed to section 3. Don't you do it. Don't do it. What they're talking about representative information over here is not just who is speaking for you, but who's your emergency contact? Who's your backup? 2.5 years from now, when probation and parole is trying to reach you, they send the letter out and it comes back, addressee unknown, left no forwarding address. How are they going to reach you? You know how long the parole officer is going to take in trying to find you? In round numbers, this long, not at all. This is who's going to know where you are in 2 years. It can be your sister and brother. It could be a spouse, but they're probably moving with you. It can be your boss at work. It can be your medical doctor. It can be your best friend. Put somebody's name and address down and their phone number and their email address so you're never caught without only one way of reaching them. And then check over here whether it's a family or a friend. And if you're willing to do it, put the attorney. But that's the trick there. Do not leave these lines blank. Fill them in. Okay, now we're in section 3. And this is the heart of it, right? It's not. I'm going to tell you why. We'll get there. But section 3, all of the crimes that you have been convicted of, where you want the governor to forgive you and the judge to explain. Offense, date of incident, OTN number. They used to ask for the sentence. They used to ask for the grade. And you can imagine how many errors there were on those, especially when they were handwritten. You don't have to do that anymore. You just have to do this particular exercise of, okay, tell me what it is you want the pardon for. Okay, so the way you get that is really easy. All right, I'm now changing websites. Jack, raise your hand again. Can you see the UPS portal? Sweet. I'm 69. Technology hates me. I'm so glad this is working. You don't know. Okay, this is UJS portal, PA Courts US. Okay, and it's case search. And I'm going to show you how you can find the criminal record of anybody. Anybody. You search by, come down here, and you ask for participant name, Okay, now the screen pops up. I'm going to make it a little bit more, I think. Yeah, there we go. All right. Participant, it asks for two things are mandatory. Participant, last name and first name. So I'm going to fill in one. That's Flood. Okay. And then I'm going to have to type in the first name. Okay. So a guy like Toby Oxholm, it'll be easy. John Smith, you're going to have to fill in the date of birth. You're just going to have to. Otherwise, you're going to be sorting through it forever. Docket type, criminal. Okay. Just like that, we have, wait a second, Brandon Flood, criminal search. That's all it is. And you click it, and oh my God, look at this. In less than 1 minute, you get the criminal record of Brandon Flood. Now, I will tell you this. I've already got his permission to show you, so I'm not breaking any confidence here, but this is how you get it for anybody. Now, on the right-hand side, it has these Ds and this Greek Parthenon looking building. Okay, what you're doing is you're going to click the Greek Parthenon building looking thing, and you're going to end up with a court summary. This lists almost all the information you're going to want to know. You wanted to know, remember what the crime was? Manufacturing, delivery, possession with intent, manufacture, delivery. There it is. And look, it's got them all. So he has one conviction there, guilty, another conviction here, another conviction here, drugs, drugs, drugs. So this is a druggie, right? And down this page, another one, firearms. So this guy's dealing drugs with a gun, right? If you're an HR director, how much time are you going to give to this guy? You just, 30 people applying for 2 jobs. How long are you going to look at this guy? Right, you're not. So this is what we're talking about. We want to get a pardon for these crimes. Why? Because they occurred back in 2005. He was sentenced for 36 months. All right, so he's been out since 2008. That's almost, it's more than 10 years, right? It's 13 years, 14 maybe by the time you're hearing this, right? Down here, it's the same thing. So you would take, you go like this, you right click, you copy it, you go back to the application page, and this isn't it. So you just copy and paste right there, okay? OTN number down here in the lower part, OTN, let's go back to the summary. OTN is right here. It's an offense tracking number. I don't know if you can see it, so let me try to make it a little bit larger. OTN, right? Offense tracking number. So you highlight it, you copy it, and you go back to the form and you fill it in right here in the lower left. Last one, date of incident. Why they're asking for date of incident, I don't know. Because on the form, you have a date of arrest, but that's not going to help. The date of arrest is not going to work. And that would be right. Wait a second, all these pictures are in the way. The date of arrest is right here. All right, so what you have to do, you have to go to a second page. You go back to the case search and you hit the D, which stands for docket. All right, so this is the actual underlying case. And here it is, it's Dauphin County. Here it is, there's the OTN. Here's the initiation date, filing date, nope and nope, arrest date, nope, complaint date, nope. And you keep going down and you will find offense date. The board's going to be changing this. I almost guarantee it, but probably not until November. It's going to be that incident date, offense date, you're going to put down there 2/2/2005, all right? That goes up here, the date of incident, and you've now done everything you need to begin this for a client you haven't even met yet. Anyone think that's too tough to do? Okay, that's why God invented paralegals, legal assistants, associates, whatever, okay? It's not tough. All right, so here we are. Describe the incident, how you were involved. Where were you? What exactly did you do? How were you caught? This should seem fairly easy to do. It's not so easy, because if you got convicted of one and you were doing other things, you really going to put that down here? And if you didn't do it, what are you going to put down here? How long should the explanation be? I started off as a child. My dad left. My mom, was the sole caregiver. I got beat up by her boyfriend. They don't want to know any of that. There may be a place for it. We'll see. But they don't want to know any of that. They want to just say, what were you doing at the time? I was representing somebody who was doing drugs, and they were doing it in a drug house, and they were in there, and the cops came down. They knocked down the door. They came. They arrested everybody. They were doing drugs, and she was convicted of possession with intent to deliver. She said, I never did any of that. I was in there using. All right, so we talked about how she had been doing drugs for a really long time. She was doing drugs that day, and the police came in and arrested her. 100% true. We never said that she did or didn't deal, because she is convicted of dealing. And this 20 years ago, it's like, who cares at this point? Tell them what was true, because you're going to have to explain how come you're not hanging with those people anymore or going to drug dens anymore. You're going to be having to do. So here you got to describe it. There is a box down here that says, this box, if you're attaching a supplemental page. Do not attach your Word document. They won't accept it. You have to scroll down to the bottom where they have, believe it or not, form extra pages. Need more space? Fill them out. They're right here. So you have to do the same thing. Do it again. Okay, keep going. Do not put it on white paper. They're not accepting it. I honestly don't know why, but they're not. But here's my advice. Don't go to a second page. You don't get credit for that. If the client can't remember because it was 15 years ago, say it was 15 years ago. If the client was on drugs or alcohol and doesn't remember, say that. If they had mental problems at the time, say that. Make sure you're explaining why the memory may not be as good as all those criminal records that are coming from the courthouse that Aubrey is going to be giving you. It's the complaint, it's the affidavit of probable cause, it's the criminal information, it's the plea or plea or verdict, and it's the sentencing report. Those 5 things are being attached to this. They're going to say what the cops were saying about that person at the time. And if the person says, hey, I was minding my own business, and the cops put their hand in my pocket and they came out with a packet, I didn't know. And the cops records say, you know, we were watching this guy for 3 weeks dealing. You know what's going to happen. So make sure you read them. You're going to have the records. Make sure you tell the client what's in the records. Probably won't be able to read them. And then make sure that they write the best statement they can about what they were doing and how they came to be arrested for this first conviction. All right, here's the next one. Set in section 3, conviction which clemency is requested, number 2. Okay, same form. Number 3, same form. You can go, we actually helped somebody who had 10 convictions, and we had to keep going and reproducing this page down at the bottom. Case number blank, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right, so here's what was happening. First one, possession. Second one, retail theft. Third one, possession intent to deal. Fourth one, robbery. Fifth one, prostitution. You know what was happening to this woman, right? And why did she need a pardon? Because she was married with a husband and she had a daughter growing up, and she didn't want to be known to her daughter as a drug dealing prostitute. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. She wanted to go on field trips with her kid. Those things, look, the board, either you're going to prove the board that you turned and you're leading a new life and you deserve forgiveness, or you're not. Fill it out for everything. Okay, we're now in section 4, additional criminal information and driver history. On this page, basically the Board of Pardons is saying, what else in life have you done bad? It doesn't really say that, but that's what it's driving at. And if you've done nothing else bad, you just say, ain't done nothing else bad. Check the box, no. Anything else? Check yes, and provide the information below. The first one is juvenile charges, okay? Look, even if you don't do criminal work, you know that what happens in juvenile court stays in juvenile court. No one's supposed to know that stuff. We've told the board that this is unconstitutional to ask. You know what? They're getting rid of the question. It'll be off the form when it comes out in November. Until then, you can either answer it, client can always answer it, but it is a public document. Or the client can write in, yeah, I had problems with the police when I was growing up, and I'd be happy to talk with you about it, but I just don't want to write this down in a public document. That will be fine. That's what real people call, I object, Your Honor. Just say, I'll talk to you about it, really. The next one is other adult charges. If they were charged but not convicted, they should go here. You're going to have a hard time finding them because of clean slate. So they know that at the board, and they can see the full record. So they're not really worried about those kinds of things. You can write down, I was arrested for other things back a couple years ago. That's probably enough. If there were convictions, 10 years old, misdemeanor 2s or 3s that were clean slated, the board staff is actually going to call up and say, wait, you forgot to include this. Do you want to include this? The answer is yes. And they will give you a chance to add it. So there's a fail-safe added in there to make sure that we don't get misled by clean slate. Everybody wants to help people who really turn their lives around, even the Board of Pardons and all the people on it. And I think especially them. What they're really looking at here is charges in other states, Ohio, New York, Maryland, West Virginia, whatever. They want to know about those things, or in the federal system. And you got to write it down. Look, you're not going to know. And there's no way you can go online the way we just did for Pennsylvania and check out Ohio or New York or Maryland, Delaware, whatever. You don't have to. You're helping the client fill it out. You warn the client, look, don't play games. Remember, the Attorney General is on the Board of Pardons. He's got friends. Okay? So if the client says, really, there's nothing there, and there was something there, he may be reducing his chances of going from 87% likely to 30%. But here's what's really going on. If the person has a conviction for retail theft or prostitution or drugs in Pennsylvania and is a rapist or murderer across the divide in Ohio, a pardon's not going to do the guy any good. So the board's not going to pay much time or attention to this, which is why we can't, any more serious offenses, we're not asking you to volunteer to help them. You can still do it for a paying customer, absolutely. They can file a client, the clients can file for pardons anytime. But the board is looking to make sure that if a pardon's given, it's going to be meaningful to the applicant. So that's what they're looking for. And down here at the bottom, it's traffic citation. They used to ask you to get the entire PennDOT full driver history. They don't ask that anymore. Well, because they can get it in 2 clicks. So they're again asking for other states, right? Because they're going to know if you've got repeated driving violations, speeding violations, driving without a license, thumbing your nose at the authority, you haven't grown up, you're not going to get pardoned because you haven't grown up. You're not acting like a respectable citizen. So be sure you tell the clients that their driving makes a difference about whether the Board of Pardons is going to be willing to recommend them for a pardon. Otherwise, you're writing down to the best of the client's recollection what happened to them in another state. And here's the thing. I have a criminal record in Delaware. I went through a red light. No, I didn't. I went beyond the line. I stopped. There was a second line. They sent me the citation in the mail. I paid the dang thing, but it was a crock. And now I have to fill this out? Here's how I answer it. Data, citation, or ticket. I don't even remember the decade. State, Delaware, offense going through red light, penalty, no idea. No, I have to pay something, maybe points. That's all I know. Put it down, right? If it's something like that, they are not going to care. But if something comes to their attention, and remember, we're talking about the Attorney General here. If something comes to their attention where you're not putting it down, you've lost credibility. You've lost the honesty. You have lost the most important thing that is going to lead to a positive recommendation. Tell your clients to be totally forthcoming. No messing around here. Then we go to section 5. This is an optional personal statement. Okay, everybody knows what optional means. It's, I ain't doing it, right? Anyone who has seen a crime show on TV knows that whatever you say can and will be held against you in a court of law. So they'd be an idiot to fill this out, and they know it, right? Wrong. Totally wrong. I mean, absolutely wrong. This is the most important page in the whole application form. Matter of fact, on this one, check the box at the bottom as many times as you can. Make sure you have a complete statement. This is where the person gets to say who they are today, where they're going tomorrow, how they've changed from what they were doing back when they got their convictions, why these convictions are holding them back, what they hope to do for themselves and their families, and why they deserve the second chance that only a pardon can give. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the closing argument to the jury that all of us civil trial lawyers know about a lot, or this is the story that we're putting together for the corporate filings about why this or that ought to happen. This is persuasion. This is how we are helping the client tell their story. How do you do this? Well, I typically ask the client if they want to write it up. Some don't have the skills. We're representing folks in Philly that read at a 3rd or 5th grade level. They don't do computers, they do handwriting. I said, okay, do the handwriting and send it to me. I don't have high-speed internet. Okay, well, so can I help? I've actually typewritten their story as they give it to me over the phone. I read it back to them. I want them to see this. So when I've done the form, I say, where can I email this? The guy says, well, you can email it to my phone. That's not good. I emailed it to their mother-in-law. Prints it out there. I say, work with your mother-in-law. Does this sound like a good story to her? And then we work on the story. Do not change the, if they're writing it, don't change the spelling, don't change the punctuation. This is not a grammar test. And if this essay doesn't sound like the person who's applying, what do you think the parole or probation officer is going to think? It's being cooked up by somebody else. This is where their voice has to come through. This is them telling their story. Sometimes it can go on for page after page. Don't let them ramble on. Really try to encourage them to be straightforward. Try to remember, this is what's going to the tribunal. But unless you're representing them as their lawyer, your name's not going on this. Just tell them that this is the time when they can say their best, because this will go to all 5 members. And remember, you need 2 votes to get to the hearing, 3 votes to get to the governor. So it's got to be a good story. It's got to be 100% true, 100, maybe 110% true. Check the box at the bottom, keep going. And ladies and gentlemen, we are done. Well, there's all this lawyer language in here. Anyone who's done, a verification knows this is the subject to the pains and penalties of perjury under 18 PACS 4904. No one's going to go to prison because they lied on this. This is where you again say to the client, you're signing this. You had better make sure it's honest, because if it ain't honest, you aren't going to win. Now, look, the rules are you can apply a year later, and people do that. But then you're coming back to the board as a lying loser. And your chances of winning that one are not 87%, because they know what you tried to pull on them last time when they didn't vote in your favor. Sometimes a client goes back too early. We've had people apply after 3 years, and the board thinks, no, just don't have a big enough record yet. So not getting through and not getting the recommendation, maybe just haven't been out there in community long enough. People who've been on probation and parole have asked for a pardon, and the board is saying, nope, we want you to be out there without the safety net that if you do something wrong, you get yanked back to prison. You've got to be out there not doing anything wrong on your own for 5 years or whatever. So that's what's happening. Down here at the bottom, it says, okay, it says application not going to be accepted or filed until all questions have been answered. Okay, we've been through all this, and they signed it. Here's something you ought to know. Even as a coach, pardon coach, which is what you all are in just about 2 minutes from now, you can sign this as the pardon coach. Just say so, date it, I'm telling you the truth here, yellow sticky that says pardon coach, client will mail in original signature page. The board will accept it, receive it. They won't let it be filed without the client signature, because they don't want to be bamboozled later with a client saying, I never did that, never said that. So you can do this for your client as a pardon coach, not as a lawyer, not worrying about representations to the tribunals, no ethical considerations for it. I'm telling you, most pardon coaches are not doing that, just because, look, there are things that the client has to do themselves, right? They gotta figure out how to sign this. And then what you're going to do is you're going to make a PDF of it, not a granular copy, but a PDF. And you're going to keep it. And what we're about ready to do is we're going to be saying, send it to the Pardon Project of Erie counties. They can have it. What's required? Only court documents and completed and signed application. Duh. This document filled out, plus a thing from the court that RB is going to give you, and then mail it, right? Not quite. Here in the center are things that the board isn't saying you must have. It's saying, we like these things. And I'm telling you, these are absolutely mission critical to it. It doesn't have to go in the first time. But after the letter comes back saying, we've received it, and here's your application number, send it in then. Letters of recommendation, letters from your boss, promotions, your GED, an associate's degree, a report card, a thank you letter from somebody you helped. If your client hasn't done any kind of volunteer service, send them to the local church, mosque, or synagogue. Make them go out there at Thanksgiving time and hand out turkeys or toys for tots, and then have the priest or rabbi or imam write them a letter saying, this is a parishioner, they're doing good work, right? And that gets attached to this document, it goes in, because that's what the probation and parole officer will see. They may or may not do the follow-up call, but they'll have a matter of public record that other people are saying that this client is worth supporting. And honestly, that is done. There is nothing else to teach. You are done. You are mailing it to the Board of Pardons. You are not asking for return receipt requested because there's nobody there to do that. Just mail it in regularly. But if you kept a PDF, if the letter hasn't come back from the board within a week or two, actually 6 weeks, not a week or two. They're taking 6 weeks to get these letters back now because it's not in the office. Saying we've received it, here it is, here's the application number, and you can send the application to the secretary of the Board of Pardons saying, hey, has this come in yet? They will then tell you yes or no. So the third and final CLE code word, success. 8 out of 10 pardon applicants who get a hearing end up with a pardon. 8 out of 10. Anybody in the room watching, anyone online watching, whether you're a lawyer, a paralegal, a legal secretary, a healthcare practitioner, somebody who just really cares about other people, you can do this and you can really make it successful. That is the end of the show. So I can answer questions, but I think there's going to be a little closer from the Erie County Bar Association, which has been absolutely essential for this. So Tim George, take it away.
Thank you, Toby. I do speak now on behalf of the Erie County Bar Association. I want to thank everyone for attending the presentation today. We have heard why pardons are important and necessary to people, our economy, and our community. We've heard how to apply for pardons. I'm here to ask you to volunteer for the Erie Pardons Project. I'm asking you not only to volunteer, but I'm asking you to ask your lawyer friends to volunteer for the project. This is an opportunity for lawyers to make a true and profound difference in the lives of others. We have a chance to change the trajectory of someone's life and the life of their family. By removing the single biggest impediment to a good paying job or decent housing or even a college education, we can give them an opportunity to make a better life for themselves and for their families. And as we've heard, it also helps our community. This is one of those volunteer opportunities for which you will receive no opposition. Jack Erie, prosecutors across the Commonwealth, recognize the importance of giving people a fair chance after they've paid their debt to our society. In addition to having no opposition, as a volunteer for this project, you will have an immense amount of support. Our Bar Association will support you. We have an enthusiastic support system across Pennsylvania, spearheaded by Toby Oxholm. If you don't think he believes in the program or is enthusiastic, I will tell you personally, he is, because if you email him or call him, you will get the answers you need. We have a list of resources that we're making available to local lawyers who want to get involved. We have the support of Toby. Everyone involved here wants to support you because we want lawyers to be relevant. We want lawyers to be at the tip of the spear when it comes to making a difference in people's lives and in making contributions to our community. That's my ask. It's relatively easy, but it is hugely powerful. You see, the application doesn't require any understanding of any changes in procedural rules or substantive law. We simply are lending our interest for being meaningful and doing meaningful work, and coupling that with our ability to write and organize and coach others who are looking to make a difference in their lives.
Wonderful, Tim. Thank you so much. And I should have said, Since these are coming through our pardon project, one of the things you might be able to attach early on, if his office is able to get to it in time for you to mail it in, is getting a letter of support from the DA's office, because we're working with Jack and with Beth and trying to make sure that we are sending through people who deserve it from their point of view too. Because you don't want to help somebody who's going to, crater at the end. Then it's making, they're getting their hope up and then they're just going to be crashed. So we're really trying to make sure this all works together. And if I could, Julie, are there any questions that came in through the chat, or anyone who has a question online right now?
No one's on the chat or with Q&As. Does anybody in the room have a question? We have Jen Fisher, if you want to speak loud so Toby can hear you.
Yep, I'll try. So I understand the income guideline for the pro bono project of 150% of the federal poverty line or below. Is the process the same for an individual who's above the federal poverty line and wants to apply?
Yeah, excellent question. And for those who didn't hear, it was, we've been talking about helping low-income folks. What about if you're above the poverty line? Exactly the same form, exactly the same advice, exactly the same best practices. You only get paid for it. I mean, that's the best thing. So yeah, it is exactly the same. You're going to have to pay whatever the dollars per page is to get it from the court. Arbria is not going to give them to you for free, but it's the same process, absolutely beginning to end.
Thank you.
Tim has a question.
The application requires full disclosure of an applicant's criminal history. And the clean slate law has done good for many, many people, but it makes it, and I think it will make it difficult for a volunteer lawyer to know whether or not they have captured an applicant's complete criminal history. We can't see it on that portal. I know in the materials you suggest going to the courts and getting documents from the courts. And I think that may be the best we can do, but do you have any other suggestions? My experience is people recognize they've been in trouble and they will tell you about how they got into trouble, but the details, the when and the where, is oftentimes a challenge for those of us who don't have access to law enforcement resource tools.
It's a really good question, Tim. And in past years, up until 2019, the Board of Pardons required sending off to the state police a request for access and review, which for $38, and if you waited patiently for 9 months, would give you their complete record. The Board of Pardons did away with that in 2019 because the A&Rs weren't complete either. So what we've designed is, one of the things you're going to get from the client is a signed authorization to receive from the court materials that have been clean slated. So you will be able to get any record that's in the court where the charges have been sealed, or convictions if they're long enough before. But you'll be able to get that entire statement from the court about what they have. So that's part of the document. That's the only check you have. If it goes into the Board of Pardons and the applicant is forgotten or neglected to include a conviction, where the pardon would run to that too, but only if you identify it. The Board of Pardons staff has been instructed, and they do this, to call the applicant and the representative, the coach, and say, yo, there's another conviction out here you didn't apply for. Don't you want that covered too? If you say yes, you'll be able to go back and amend it, but they'll also tell you what the docket number is so you can find out what and where it is. So the Board of Pardons, the folks there, the administrative staff, they are really intent on helping people get this second chance. They are going to be checking. That's one of the things they're doing after they receive it, before they file it, is make sure it's complete. And so we can do the best we can. We're not going to know it all because it's not online anymore because of Clean Slate. But the board is not prejudicing or punishing anybody because we can't see what we can't see.
There's a question, Toby. I don't know if you can see it, so I'm just going to read it. If an applicant moves during the process, how should they update their contact information to the board?
Excellent question. Same address and phone number, same address. Mail the letter in saying, I've moved, here's my new forwarding address, and here's my application number. Right? And that's the only way to do it. You send it in. After you've gotten the application number, you can actually email it in because you'll receive an email address saying any updates you can mail to this address. So it becomes really easy. Now, someone's asked in the chat, how does a potential client find a pardon coach? We are creating a website that's going to have information about that in Erie County. We have 2 universities that are stepping up to make coaches available and actually have physical locations where people can go and talk to people who know about it. It's Mercyhurst and Gannon. They're both on this since the beginning. They will be able to help. We intend to have a list of people who volunteered to serve as coaches and who've been trained. So the Bar Association is going to have that list and is going to make sure that those 2 sites have that list too. So we will be able to keep generating more and more people who are coaches, not lawyers, from out community resources, and more clients coming in, and Gannon and Mercyhurst are going to be putting the 2 together as coordinators. So that's how it's going to work. The website should be up, we hope, in the next week or 2, and we'll make sure everybody who came to this course gets that information.
Are there any other questions from the group? Jay Shemek here. Let me just try and turn the camera. Okay, go ahead, Jay.
Thanks for the great presentation. If someone is successful and they get the pardon, then the next step is to go before the judge for the expungement. We haven't been trained in that, and that's not work that I do. What's that next stage?
So for those, make sure everyone heard the question. It's all right, you get the pardon, but just like Brandon Flood, whose record we saw, he got a pardon. He got a pardon from the governor, which is why he's able to take that government position. He has not gone back to the court because he wants it still there so people can see. And he also uses it as a check against landlords and such who are not using it legally. The way you have to take it, you have to get a copy, the applicant receives the pardon in the mail, and it's a beautiful document. You make a PDF of it, and you can walk it down to court and get the form to apply for the expungement, and it should go through. I don't know the practice there in Erie County, but on some counties, it's once something like that comes in where it's because of a pardon, it goes right to the judge. No hearing, no nothing, because there's no objections to it. But that's something that, since it would be going through Jack's office anyway, he can work out with the clerk about how that gets processed. Excellent question, though. And honestly, one of the problems we have now is that the Board of Pardons reports that only about 30% of the people getting the pardons take the next step. They don't know about the next step. They can't afford a lawyer for the next step. They can't afford the filing fee of $180 or whatever for the expungement petition. So what we're trying to do around the state, with the support of the DAs, is get a law that makes it automatic. If you've gotten a pardon, it's automatically expunged because that takes it off Jack's desk, off anybody's desk, and nobody has to worry about that next step. We don't have the law yet, but we're hoping that that's going to come out of the current session.
Are there any other questions, either from folks in the room or online? Just a quick housekeeping then. Please turn your CLE forms either in person to Nancy, who's sitting out in the lobby, or email Nancy at nrtheuerkauf@Erie Bar. She's the one where you received the Zoom information. And then in about 2 weeks, we'll send out any additional information on how to link up pardon coaches, the websites, and all other good stuff like that. In the meantime, if you have questions, please use the Bar Association as a resource. Feel free to give me a call. I'm Julie Kresge, the director here at the bar. And with that, I'd like to thank Toby, Tim, Jack, and Pat for being on this CLE, and all the hard work from everybody behind the scenes at Mercyhurst and Gannon, and our community members as well that have really stepped up and make this process easy for folks in our community. Any closing words, Toby?
Words of thanks. Julie, first to you, you've been absolutely wonderful on this. And to the folks in the room, look, I'm from Philadelphia. I'm working in Erie. I love this. I'm 69 years old, and if ever there were a reason to get up out of bed in the morning, this is it. Thanks for everyone who's getting involved in this. This is good work. Thank you.
Okay, thanks all.
Bye-bye.